Greetings and welcome back to Let's Get Started as Japan in Victoria 3. When we left off, we had just finished our Phase 1 of our development plan, the first 4 years, and we had received at the end of those 4 years the invitation from the British to open our economy, which we will of course accept with gritted teeth. Now, before I go into exactly what we'll do afterwards and our building, I did want to briefly outline my company plan, because now is as good a time as any, and it does kind of let you know what my build priorities are. So this is what I like to historically call, trying to be clever, my sushi and washi build, though we may want to add sake to it as well now that we are obsessed with alcohol. So sushi, washi, and sake. We'll work on that a little bit. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to structure all our companies directly around those goods, but whatever our companies are doing for those goods, or not doing for those goods to be more specific, we will be prioritizing building those out of our government queue. Now, what exactly industries are appropriate for that? Well, of course, the fish industry is appropriate for that, and it is fairly functional. I've used it before. It works pretty well. And later on, you will disband it. And we will be disbanding our first 2 industries. However, fish is pretty cheap to build, and I think I can handle that myself, even if it takes a little bit of the role-playing thematic sushi element away. Instead, we want to think about our paper industry for starters, and this will be probably the first company we establish. Now, washi paper as a prestige good is not actually available until you research ironclads with Mitsubishi becoming founded. So before we get started with that, we're going to actually found the Paper Corporation. This will build up a healthy paper industry, which will enable us to build up our bureaucracy, our educational institutions, and our universities as part of those institutions. Later on then, when we disband the Paper Corporation, we'll have a huge and very solid paper industry to immediately give a monopoly to Mitsubishi with, thereby making sure they're very quickly profitable. At the same time, the paper industry can also receive a wood charter. That wood charter then, building up all of our wood and stripping the forests of Japan, once we disband the Paper Corporation, can go to another industry that will be one of our longer-term industries. And that industry is Kinkozan Sobe. Now, you may be relatively underimpressed by a glass company that just does wood, but this industry can end up being incredibly valuable in the mid-game, and even more so later game once you go to steel frame buildings, which of course require glass inputs. So the wood that we develop with our paper company can then be given over to Kinkozan Sobe, giving them also a very solid basis for quick and rapid profits and growth. The second company that we'll establish early is more up for debate. However, the most ideal one is actually the United Chuba Home Goods Producer. This company can develop glass, and glass as well then can be handed off for a very quickly and profitable Kinkozan Sobe industry. Simultaneously, the home industry can also be given a charter for lead, and lead can be given to another industry. Lead can be given to our second industry after Kinkozan Sobe, Mitsuyo. They produce lead as one of their core goods, and then we can give them iron most likely as a charter. So this means our first 2 companies are the paper industry and the home goods industry. They will be replaced simultaneously with Mitsuyo and Kinkozan Sobe. These synergize very well since glass inputs lead, and Mitsuyo can be developing that at the same time. This is why it's really good to actually deploy these companies at the same time so you don't end up having to pump out a bunch of lead mines yourself. Our third company then will be Mitsubishi, coming a little bit late unfortunately, because we have to develop first the third industry slot and ironclads, but you get there pretty quick if you prioritize it. Meanwhile, we'll take a little bit of a paper hit when we lose the throughput bonus from disbanding our company, but we'll be in such a solid position by then that it won't matter too much. So hopefully that plan makes sense to you. At the same time, you'll notice that there was quite the absence then of the sushi. The wood does of course help in building up the ships, and ships can be handed off or developed with Mitsui, but it's just not the most profitable thing. So we'll be doing most of those industries ourselves. That'll be a government-driven initiative. Our other priority then will be paper. So ships and paper tend to be our main priorities right now going forward. The ships then will feed into the fish industry, which will feed our population, hopefully take a little bit of pressure off the demand for meat. Simultaneously, we'll actually put a lot of emphasis into the whaling industry because that will take pressure off the meat by providing meat, and it can also take pressure off the demand for wood by providing oil to meet the heating needs of the people. You'll notice here in our wood, if you look at the demand, the population is demanding 400 of it for their heating needs. And, you know, we have other purposes for that wood. They can use the oil because oil doesn't have much value in the early game other than for a heating good. All right, hopefully that lays it out very nice and well for you what we're going to be doing. I will maybe then try to slot in more food industries though, and I was briefly even debating due to the obsession of getting rid of the home goods and establishing a food industry for just 5 years, so they can build up a very solid industry for me, but we'll see when we get there. Now, let's get to building a few things to prepare for the opening. What do you need to be open and to trade? Well, you need trade centers. And when you get forced open, you can take 3 approaches. You can either immediately stop everything and slap down 1 million trade centers. You can ignore it and just not keep playing as if you weren't open. And you can take the third approach, which is actually not mutually exclusive, and you can also just sign a bunch of investment treaties with everybody and let them all build up in your country. Now, the last one, to deal with that first, can be very effective, but I've actually played a fair amount of runs, and it's no more effective than the others. RNG and other factors are going to play a much bigger role on whether your economy is larger or smaller come 1890. The only advantage I really see to giving out a bunch of investment rights is if you really want to focus on one area of your economy. For instance, if I'm playing a very heavy industry militaristic run, I like to give investment rights to Austria, because they start with a furniture company that also has a prestige good, a unique prestige good that is, and they usually also found then the Italian clothing company that also has a unique prestige good. And they can then take care of both of my clothing and furniture demands, kind of just relieving me of having to think about my people ever. Yeah, who wants to think about the people? All right, but we're not going to do that. We're going to take the more just ignore it approach, though we will build up some trade centers and prep for that. Also because the private sector, and certainly the companies that we found, will be building lots of trade centers. So trade centers, of course, need merchant marines. Merchant marines are produced by ports. Ports require ships. So we need ships. The AI was very kind and did actually build one useful building. I kind of checked around and I believe it is the only one, other than like farms. And they built an extra shipyard down here in Kyushu for us. But we need at least 3 more. Once we change our production methods, demand for ships is going to go up. So we need 3 more, and those 3 should be ideally somewhere where one day you might build steel and engines. That's not going to work perfectly because we obviously only want our ships to be built up where there's these nice bay modifiers for ship throughput, but we can get it close enough. So let's get some ships laid down here. I click on the right tab. So we've got 2 down there already, but we're going to want 1. And I know it doesn't look like it's terribly profitable, but once we change the PMs, it will be, because there's already a few fish in Kansai. We're going to want 1 in Kansai and 1 in Kanto. And we're going to want a 3rd one, relatively indifferent whether you want to build up some extra throughput down in Kyushu or in Kanto. I'm going to go with Kanto because I'm going to prioritize whales, and the whaling is in the north, and including in Kanto. We're going to also want to put down a little bit of wood to compensate for the fact that we're building things that require wood. I'll put down, why not just put down 2? And let's put down 2 in Kansai as well, because Kansai is always a little bit short of wood, mostly because the people are burning it in their houses. There we go. So now we got some stuff there. We're going to keep these universities on the bottom until we get spread for empiricism or for medical degrees. I know we're putting it off, but we're fine for qualifications. We don't need it. We just want it for the tech event. Now we've got some shipyards up. We're going to hope that this helps really drive down prices too, so that fishing becomes more profitable and the AI actually starts building some fishing industries. We'll see. We usually will have to tack down 1 or 2 ourselves. However, I will tack down a couple whaling industries to immediately take advantage of our new cheap ships. All right, another tongue twister, starting off the episode strong with my enunciation. All right, we can see that Kanto is still pretty profitable, and I think that's a good place. It's got a lot of infrastructure at present too, so we'll just pop down 2 there. I like developing Kanto. It will be our future capital. I do really like putting down more stuff in Kansai too. I find that the workers that work in fishing industries and in the shipyards that support them tend to support good interest groups like the petit bourgeois and the trade unions. But they only really get politically active once you've researched a few more texts, so we won't really worried about putting down a bunch of fishing quite yet. So now we've got our nice shipyard industry up with a couple of whalings coming up. Plenty of cotton coming up next, and a little bit of wood interspersed. Lastly then, we want to think about our paper demand. You can see it's quite short right now, 132, so let's tack in some paper industries in the bottom. I'm going to put them all down in Chugoku, because this is a great place for long-term paper industry. It has both sulfur and dyes, which will feed into some of the later PMs for your paper industry. We'll just put down 3, even though 3 just barely meets our demand, and our demand will be going up. We'll add in more when we can, but hopefully we get pretty quickly to founding our first company, and then they can take care of that for us. So our initial queue is kind of done. You can of course add more of any of them, but I'm going to wait. This will take in itself still long enough. And what we're going to try to do when we feel comfortable with our financial situation is we're actually going to expand our construction industry, and we're going to try to push that up to 50 first and then push it up to 60. 50 is going to be very attainable. I could even do it now if I want, but first I'm going to click this event, click let's go, and see how the finances pan out. I'm going to run it a little bit slower for a second, just to give myself some time to ease into it. All right, we've done enough talking, but there is actually one more thing I realized. I do want now then, of course, to monitor the price of iron. Iron. Learn my alphabet, and I never was monitoring the price of grain. It's not usually a problem in Japan, at least not early, but it can become a problem later if we start getting some negative events. Looking at you, Indonesia, but Japan is very disaster prone. I will recite my favorite RNG bad luck moment when I had a fire in 1837 that killed 1 million people in Japan right after I was forced open. The financial crash was spectacular. All right, let's unpause. Well, no, let's not unpause. Let's accept this. Thank you, Britain. Yes, we'd be happy to open our market. And we now have free trade. And now they're happier, and the U.S. is happier. Yes, get what you want, and all of a sudden you're happier. So we can now also start getting pop-ups about all sorts of people that we don't care about. I've tried to turn off some of them, but we can declare some interests now and start improving with some of the great powers. The best places for interests, if you want to maximize great powers, is these 2 provinces, as many of you probably know. And the third one we can put down just about anywhere. I'll pop it in Manchuria. I don't think for this like kind of run where I'm, half let's playing but half teaching, that will go into Manchuria in any way so early. But, you never know. Maybe an opportunity comes up. All right. As soon as those become activated, we will start improving some relations with people. We didn't quite finish our construction loop. I would have loved if the opening had come like 2 months later, so this would be done. It would have just made it so synergistic or smooth, but alas, it won't. Wait, where's the opening of Japan event? I guess I'm running it on slow, that's why it's not popping quite yet. Don't worry, I'll speed it up in a bit, because I know we want to get at least to 1844 this episode. All right, our industry tooling here is up, so we can increase the logging here. And as soon, now we get all sorts of pop-ups of people being happy. Oh, those normally aren't pop-ups, but because of the setting, and maybe between episodes, if it becomes problematic, I'll change the settings now. But between episodes, I'll turn that off, because it's only really important to keep that as a pop-up for Japan when you're preparing for the opening. Certainly not later. The opening of Japan. Forced to open itself to the world, Japanese shogunate must now contend with the economic interference of other powers. The shogunate takes a 75% hit to their strength, while the industrialists that are non-existent and the intelligentsia will get a bonus. We'll also get legitimacy hits if we include them in our government, the shogunate in our government, get a modernization movement, and the popularity of our leader plummets. So authority is gone. We will boost the movement for modernization very soon, but not quite yet. I'm just going to get to the end of the month, or the end of the week, actually. Just let it tick. There we go. And the US doesn't care about us anymore. There we go. All right. So this is our new financial reality. As you can see, not bad at the moment. We don't have any authority, which is a shame, but that's fine. We didn't use it anyways. We've got our road maintenance up, and we still have enough for one more thing. Have we unlocked romanticism yet? Nope, not quite. How close are we? All right, close. We'll just let this float then for now, because then we're going to need our greener grasses to creep up on Hokkaido, and it will never get lifted. It will be there forever. We need to pass a law now and look at our government. So we have an unacceptable government, but, you know, the shogunate is still pretty powerful, and the industrialists are still marginalized despite that big 50% boost. Intelligentsia unfortunately declined quite precipitously there for a few years, maybe because I didn't build up enough unis or government admins or something. I'll look into that and maybe between episodes and see if there's something I did a little bit wrong that caused that decline. Then, or maybe we just have a really lousy leader and he is causing it. Well, you know, he's okay, but he only has one thing, and that's not really enough to kind of give a boost to your interest group. All right, what is our chance of passing serfdom? 28 to 61, but this won't really be 61. It'll, you know, it should in principle be less. Hopefully, the samurai aren't particularly happy. Where are my samurai? He's a traditionalist. That's a bit of a shame. If he was something, he'll be replaced soon enough anyways. Is there any way we can make him happier in the near term? Well, we could try to pass this first, but I don't think that's a good use of our time and effort. Can we get them in government even? Well, not really effectively, so we'll see. Anyways, then what we're going to do is try to pass serfdom anyways. If it fails, then we can move over to something else to try to reduce the fact that the samurai are unhappy. I mean, I keep on saying pass serfdom. Revoke serfdom, pass a land reform law to get tenant farmers in. And if it fails, we can maybe jump up and try homesteading. I don't usually like homesteading, but we can try it if everything else. It's only a 10% difference in the stall chance, so let's see about getting that rolling. Who likes that? The Hyman, Intelligentsia, Trade Unions. Great, let's look if we can get the Intelligentsia into government. Everybody out. Everybody out. 38, that's not bad. Good, let's put them in government. That'll boost our success chance there a little bit. Let's get rid of these little things. Let's also look at improving some relations. We're currently improving relations with China, with Qing more specifically. That is not important, so we'll stop doing that. And with the US, which also just isn't important at this point. Stop improving relations with them. We're going to go over instead and improve relations with, say, France and Prussia. Can we get you? Nope, we can't get you. Are you a decently sized power? No, not really. Neither you. Let's take a look at the great powers list here. I gotta close out again a second. Sometimes it does this. Yep. Sometimes it does this where it won't let you click this and you have to restart. So we don't get to see who the great powers are. That's fine. Unless I maybe show there. No, it's fine. Can we get any more influence anywhere? I don't really want to declare a rival anywhere. Certainly not with Qing. Let's see what our options are for rivals. Rivaling Qing is an option. And not a bad one. But I want to keep my options open a little bit longer. Hawaii and Korea. Well, Hawaii is not a bad one. We'll do Hawaii. Feasible. Feasible. It's likely that we wouldn't like Hawaii. There we go. Now we can improve relations with one more great power. Alright, so we're passing our tenant farmers. And we are just finishing our build orders here. No tricky stuff about maneuvering interest groups to maximize this. It's just straight up going on in. We could try to make the peasant movement a little bit stronger by raising taxes, but that would hit the legitimacy, which is already borderline. And it would slowly degrade the intelligentsia's strength. Alright, so iron mines are up as well, meaning we can change to iron tools into Hoku. And that means we can also change all of our logging industries into sawmills. And it will balance out almost perfectly. A little bit less because we had built some extra construction industries, but that's fine. And I notice our financial situation is indeed looking pretty decent. So I'm going to queue up 3 more construction industries at the bottom of our list and probably move them to the top pretty quick. But we'll toss in at least 2 woods then as well, based on prices. Kanto and Shikuko. No, later. That can come later. All right. So, we have Romanticism, which will enable Agrarianism, which is next on our list for passing. However, in the near term, we're going to use the extra authority, now that we have Romanticism, to make greener grasses on Hokkaido. Let's move our construction industries and logging to the top here. Though we'll finish up this last cotton since it's close. Let me check our decrees again. I believe I still have a road maintenance up somewhere. Yeah, I do. We could actually get rid of this now because it's going to be bouncing around too much. We'll put it on one province later when we really actually have a need. But for now, we'll just float it to speed this up a tiny bit. How much percentage? 4%. Saves you maybe a day. Mistreatment of the serfs. We'll just skip the text flavor and move on to these indignities must end. 20%. This is rather nice, though I do admit, but if we'd gotten it later when our success chance was higher, I would take it. But again, it's just a temporary pop attraction. You know, those things can aggregate over time, though, so I know it seems like I'm ignoring them all the time. And I am. If we get another one, we'll worry about it. Shogunate very unhappy. We don't really need to watch this right now. I'll try to keep an eye up here. I wish this was just a little bit bigger. And once we get down to building the unit, well, we were actually going to pop the universities down here. Or maybe we were going to pop them down. Let's take a look here. What's spreading? Oh, empiricism is spreading. It doesn't really matter because medical degrees is another option. But still, let's get those universities up then. After, of course, we get our construction industries up along with their logging. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. And we'll take that opportunity then, of course, to put down a road maintenance in Kansai, since universities do take a little bit longer to build. So no coffee right now, but I will take a sip of water. Now, something you may have noticed is that I didn't actually sign any treaties for exchange of goods. If you look here, I could, of course, make a treaty and say, transfer me some goods. And you can do this right from the beginning, even though you're isolationist. Why don't I do it? Well, one, I think it shouldn't be allowed. You're isolationist. And two, I think that should get patched, and I think it might get patched. It's a little bit of a weird workaround. It's never best, of course, to sign a treaty like that. It's a good way of securing something you definitely know you need and might have difficulty accessing, but you won't get the best prices necessarily. Of course, you're going to select a country appropriate to getting good prices, but if anything changes in the market, you won't necessarily get the best prices anymore. Always better to use the free market. Law has progressed. All right. Peasant movement is organizing. We're getting less concerned with the peasant movement now, so we don't really care. And especially this event is actually, this alternative is actually pretty good, because then it will give us radicals from political movements for all political movements. So we're going to go with that, because we want to shift very soon to the modernization movement. Oh, I see we have lost some bureaucracy, and I believe I have none lined up. So let's get a little bit more in the way of government admin. So usually I go up to 18 in Kansai, and I'll continue to do that. After that, I hope to not have to expand further there for a while, and to instead be upgrading the facilities to central archives. Money is going a little bit quicker, but we're still fine. Oh yes, now that money is going further. See, I almost forgot. It's always good to pause and think a second. The silence may be, dead air, as they say in the radio industry, or they used to when there was a radio industry, but it does allow a moment of reflection. We have not privatized anything, and we want to get on that. That's one reason the capitalists are so weak, and it's probably a slight flaw in my strategy. We're making so much money that privatizing would have really... we wouldn't have gotten any of that money back. It would have rolled too far over our cap, so it would have been a bit of a shame. Though you can go over the cash reserve cap. I don't know what the rules are on it, but I've been over it, and over it for a while. And so maybe it is something that hasn't quite been fine-tuned by Paradox. All right, let's privatize everything. Even stuff we're going to later on give to an industry. But not stuff that would go to the landlords. There we go. That's it. We haven't built a lot of variety, have we? Up to 50 construction, that's good. I am very keen to get to 60. They're belligerent still. That's not ideal. Usually they would kind of change their mind, but I have never been invaded by another country after the opening. Usually they have other concerns. It would be very unfortunate if that were to happen in a video that I'm recording. But unfortunate is the way things work sometimes. Alright, usually these laws actually fly through pretty quickly, so it's not something you have to overly worry about. I think that there is some sort of unseen modifier that makes the stall chance lower, to be honest. Yeah, despite the fact that the shogunate is so angry. The canvas of ideas. Oh yes, the intelligentsia need their paper. We will secure the pages of tomorrow's classics. Well, we don't really care about making them happier. So, but nonetheless, we'll set this up. Can't hurt. If you fail it, the punishment is the same as if we had rejected it in the first place. So it doesn't really matter. We do then have to put up a little bit of a low subventions for import. And as soon as our paper industry is built up a little bit, those prices will decline. And it should happen within the 2-year period. We're going to move this road maintenance then up to Kanto, because that will be the next place that is getting a little bit of larger industries that take a little bit longer to build. Checking attitudes really quick. I don't like that they're cautious. I was hoping to sign a few treaties. Higher learning. Okay, this is the event of which I spoke. And it will give us progress on empiricism or medical degrees. It doesn't really matter, you're going to finish both of them pretty quick, but empiricism is slightly more useful. I'm not terribly happy with the build rate, so I'm actually going to, as soon as these loggings are done here, I'm going to look at building out my final 5 construction industries. That was a dramatic pause. All right, tenant farmers is passed. Good. We'll see a little bit of a drop then in the shogunate's power from that, and we can think about our next. We're not actually, that's going to go really quick, 1 year and 8 months already. We'll see. We can think about our next law. Government still looking fine. Now remember, after the opening, if you go above 50 on your legitimacy, the honorable restoration starts to tick, which is, of course, is great. You want that to happen. However, after that, you can never let the shogunate back into power, or you'll fail the event. And the shogunate often, maybe even every time, will get a different leader at some point that is a modernizer, and that is an opportunity to utilize them. So it's a bit of a trade-off. And I'll also point out that if you finish the Honorable Restoration before 1867, then you're not going to get the industrialist Mijai for the Restoration. You'll get his father, I guess. I don't know if there was really I haven't read my Japanese history in a long time, and I really should. And he's a militarist, which isn't horrible, and it's still good. But if you want to get the industrialist, you have to wait. We'll make that decision later if we even get to that point in this series. All right, so let's see what laws we can pass with these nice intelligentsia in power. Well, one law we can pass is schools, and we do want that. We need that. Let's take a look at its success chance. We can't get it yet because we haven't got empiricism. Alrighty, let's maybe reprioritize, but first we'll look at the other laws. We've actually moved so quickly that some of the stuff is just, off on the timing. We've done well. We've done well. Back to the laws. Let's see, is there something else of priority to pass? Local police could go to dedicated police. And that makes almost everyone happy, which is kind of nice. If we want to get off traditionalism, which we do, then we need either the agrarians or the modernization movement to be stronger. That's not a bad chance of success, but it's not great. I'm going to squeeze another law in between before I do that, even though normally rush it as quick as you can. But I think because we're ahead, it's just a little bit early. Let's turn off the peasant movement, stop bolstering them, and start bolstering this modernization movement. Have you switched to your supporting? Oh, yes, he did. Good. So we have a radical or an agitator supporting the modernization movement as well, which will get it stronger much more quickly. And then that'll mean we can skip straight to, nope, not the right one, interventionism, with the backup, if it fails, of trying to hit agrarianism, which isn't the best, but in a way it is actually better for Japan early because the capitalists aren't that strong anyways. You'll end up getting more in the investment pool. But I like to just avoid having to pass another law later and get onto interventionism. All right, so what do we want to prioritize then? We've got two choices of what to prioritize. Local police, that will make a bunch of people happy, and including making the samurai happy. Not that it matters at this point. That will only matter when we go over to our voting, because they tend to not like the wealth voting. So maybe I want to wait on that and get the schools up despite the massive cost. Yep, we'll do that. But only once, of course, we get empiricism done. So let's switch our tech here and get empiricism done a little bit quicker before we move on to banking. And I guess we're not passing a law right now. I don't really like that, I must say. It seems a missed opportunity, but we'll get lucky and it'll only be 12 weeks. It'll give everybody a chance to let cooler heads prevail. So you sometimes have the dilemma, though. If, say, the opening is a little bit later. Say it was happening like right now or in another year or two. Do you go religious schools or do you wait till the opening to go for public schools? In my view, you go religious schools. So you have one less thing to worry about when the opening comes. You can always change it later. It's not that difficult to change. The Buddhist monks, again, are not the most problematic thing in the world. All right, the lathe is unlocked. And I like to take this opportunity as well to, first, of course, upgrade my PMs for my textiles and for my furniture. And that's going to increase some demand for tools. And so I like to utilize that opportunity. That also means that lead unlocked, and we can upgrade at least the Kanto, because Kanto has a lead mine there. The rest won't be profitable, but will produce a bit of extra glass. So I like to take that opportunity then to check out my tooling. All right, they're almost employed up, and they are employed up. I want to make sure that I changed everything properly. Yes, I did. So we've got a little bit more tools coming, but not a ton. I'm going to take the opportunity then to tack in another tooling industry down in Shikoku. I want to also check the iron mines very quickly. We won't really need one. I sometimes like to tack it in anyways. because we will be needing iron. Means we'll be overproducing for a little bit. When we get down to it actually being constructed, we'll see if we should adopt that plan slightly. Oh wow, that was quicker than I thought. All right, then let's go and pass that law. Now this will upset the Buddhists a bit. Oh, almost, they're really upset. Huh. All right, well, they're not upset enough to rebel. We'll try to pass it then, and if it fails, we'll go and pass police reform instead, or maybe we'll be ready for the for moving off of our economic system then. By then. Nope, apologies there. Public schools it is. All my talk about not, that it's okay to upset the monks, and here now they're going to become a problem. Almost got our ships, so can almost upgrade some other stuff. Gonna pop this down really quick. An arts academy, thanks. Oh, they're building a paper mill. That's great. And a food industry in Hokkaido. The worst place to build a food industry. Yeah, well, I mean, they're gonna build one down here too. I'll put money on it. They tend to really like putting food industries on islands. I'm not really sure why. But the paper industry is very useful. It means we could actually cut one out for now. That is one reason I actually kind of wish that you could see both private and government at the same time, so you would know, oh, hey, they're building it. I don't need to build it now. I mean, having more paper is always good, but, you know, that's not, but it's not important in the early game. All right, we've already got one shipping up. Let's start creating some demand there by getting our fishing upgraded. And we're going to upgrade it all, and no complaints from, oh, the leader retired. He was so disgraced. Oh, and they got even unhappier because of it. That is unfortunate, because they got a theocrat in charge. Well, let's see. We might end up having to cancel this legislation then. I know you're not getting either of these guys. Again, they just get in power. I'm giving them a legislation that they like, and they want more. Unfortunately, neither of these will pass, or will have much of a probability of passing. And we kind of, I mean, I'd love cultural exclusion, but now is not the time for this. That's going to be a big legitimacy hit. It might actually end up having to jettison them from power then. At some point. Alright. Publicized accounts of discrimination against Mahayan people in Russia have led the monks to lobby for a hostile stance against Russia. Do we have how many lobbies? We do not have an anti-Russia yet. Are they still upset at us? Yes. This will make them more upset. I'm not going to let them start a movement then. Normally at this point I would be fine letting them start some movements, but it ruins relations more if you've got anti-country lobbies in your country. Alright, last shipyard is up. That means I also want to upgrade one more PM, and that's the PM on our ports. Probably you could micro that a little bit more since you're paying for that, but it's fine. Where is our road maintenance? Still in Kanto. Good. A third opinion. As the debates around public school law stall, Hiroshi Yamashita has motioned to pass the proposal to a commission of experts to break the deadlock. Alright. 60% chance of nothing happening. We can't afford that, unfortunately, so let's see if nothing happens. Yep, nothing happened. Yeah, we probably could have afforded it, but our money is going to get a little bit worse here because we're going to be pushing our construction up very soon. Probably once these logging camps are done. I will have to turn that off for these pop-ups here. But it'll be fine. See, now here you can see that despite that we've made clippers and such, and we've actually produced more fish because we upgraded all the PMs, the demand for the price of fish has actually gone up because we did like supply-driven demand. So it works really well actually for fish. There's more fish, people decide to buy more, and the demand goes up. Lovely. We don't need to watch this anymore. Clippers are overly underly priced now, and we want to get them profitable again, but that's why the whaling industries are coming up. Surprised! Oh, the monks got happier again. They must have lost a modifier. Thank God we don't have to cancel this. Just a couple more whaling industries. Are we going to get our paper industry up in time? You know, I'd kind of like to. You know, getting a little bit of a boost is sometimes nice. So let's see, how bad is the price of paper? Real bad. The people are demanding more paper, I think, is what's going on there. So despite the fact that the private sector is working on an extra paper mill as well, we'll tack one in the bottom there also. Are they working on it now? Yeah, they are. All right, good. This was a good choice. It's a shame we have to wait to make clippers more profitable, but it's fine. Popular outreach. A noble cause, or an event that I don't understand why you would want if you were trying to pass the law in the first place. There can be reasons. It can, you know, manipulate stuff. All right, and that'll make the Hyman popular, or popular, more happy. Well, they're at +2. That's good. I don't plan on doing anything that'll really upset them, but some of the economic changes can sometimes. Let's line up our construction industries now, and that will allow us to move a little bit quicker on moving up our paper and our fishing industries. Now, where do we want to put them? I'm going to actually keep them in the same provinces. I don't like to develop Hokkaido until I'm ready to at least start getting closer to introducing atmospheric engine. And I'll make their construction iron from the beginning. Even if I don't even have atmospheric engine, it'll create some demand for iron and such. So that will be next, but not now. Well, maybe I'll do one just for, you know, why not? How are iron prices? You know, iron prices are zeroed out totally, but that could change quickly. So let's see. All right, so let's put one there, and one there. And then, because there's more people in industry and infrastructure up here, we'll put our last two there. We will probably want some wood then to compensate for the additional industries. We'll only do a few though, but I'm going to pop down additional woods where we're building all our paper up and where we're building more ships down there. Remember, we are still on traditionalism, so there is still local costs. I can't wait to get those constructions up, because then I can build more fish. Diplomatic ties with the US are now active. Alright, and we've got some extra influence floating, because we have max relations with Prussia. Let's improve relations with Russia and the US. Now, I will point out that sometimes, you know, you don't want to improve relations, because if we get better relations with Russia, the British can actually get more upset about that. At this point of the game, though, we are so vulnerable, we just kind of want to keep everybody happy. It can also create diplomatic cascades that cause pro and anti, lobbies in your country to form. Just a mess, just a mess. That's why I love isolationism. International relations is complicated. So happy we got our universities up. All right, we're going to also be getting a little influx of money here soon as the banking finishes, and hopefully be getting more money from selling off some industries soon. Well, this is an unfortunate event. We can either make everybody unhappy or enactment time. So this is going to take a little bit longer to pass. I mean, on the positive side, the modernization movement will be much stronger by the time we get around to passing that, but on the negative side, we're going to take longer to get around to passing it. And in the ideal world, I would end the episode at that, but this law is really moving slowly. That is also one advantage of passing religious schools. It tends to move a little bit quicker. All right, let's cancel the road maintenance here. And at this point, I'm not going to bother putting it down anywhere else. Well, nah, let's get these tooling workshops up in a hurry. Then I won't bother putting it down anywhere else. Yay, money! Oh, and we've reached the end, 8 years in. And we reach the end of our research queue. 8 years in is also, where I wanted to stop the episode. So it may be that we don't actually get off traditionalism this episode. That's my fault for trying to shoot for education, but I think it's a big priority because we need to get our tech spread up much, much higher very soon. And, government admins cost money, but they're going to support our paper industry. All right, doesn't really matter what we go for here. We just want to help finish off this thing. I'm going to go for mass communications, and then we'll hit medical degrees, but it'll be finished by then, of course. And then we will be moving on to the next tier. In particular, I want modern sewage, corporate charters, and central archives. It's very difficult to determine which ones of those take a priority, because modern sewage really helps you in a country that has such a big population as Japan. It will really help you put up the railroad for a long, long time. So it's lovely to get because of this +1 infrastructure per 100k people. Corporate charters, the sooner we get our industry up, the less we have to worry about building that. They get industries to remind you, get throughput bonuses, and they also get construction bonuses. So they're going to build those paper factories, lickety-split. Central archive, very important when you start scaling up your institutions, because we'll avoid having to build inefficient government admins, and we can build more efficient government admins. And we are going to be getting our institutions up here pretty soon. Nonetheless, I'm going to generally kind of hope for a good spread, and we'll change our mind later, of course, and look at this as my order. Probably I'll change my mind later. We'll see. Oh, and intensive agriculture is spreading there. The least useful one for us out of all of them. Perhaps, fractional distillation is not as useful. But given that we like alcohol, maybe it is. So that's a bit unfortunate of a draw with a spread. Military is developing really slowly. We haven't even got line infantry yet. Luckily, I'm sure everyone will leave us alone because we're not an island of farmers anymore. We're an island of fishermen, or we will be soon enough. I see we lost our rivalry with Hawaii because we're doing too well, but we'll just sacrifice that prestige for now until I decide to deal with more rivals later. I'm just a friendly guy. I don't like rivaling people. Not until the diplomatic world and scene is a little bit more clear. Oh, good, a pass. Maybe we can at least start passing agrarianism before the episode ends. I doubt it, though. I really would prefer to stop at 1844. It just keeps these things into, the nice 4-year bits. All right, Chuling is done there. It doesn't really matter. This wasn't for supporting anything, but it's because, we're building more logging camps and such and more construction, so we're going to need more tools soon enough. Oh, we're getting another paper up, which we don't desperately need at the moment. I'm gonna just pop it down. It doesn't really matter, and we're gonna finally take this road maintenance off, and we are not gonna worry about road maintenance anymore. Once I hit 60 construction, I don't worry about it as much. Instead, you can do what you want with it. I'll pop in a social mobility decree in Kansai. The more people that can read, the more people that might not like the people who don't want them to read. Great, let's go. I see we're a little bit shy in bureaucracy again. Let's put one in Chubo. That's going to be the other place that needs extra ones, as well as Kanto eventually, because we're going to build that place up so high. All right, one more good roll, guys. More people who are smart. A stall. I mean, that's not the worst stall in the world, actually. It's kind of a good one. Strengthening the modernization movement. And giving us extra authority for a while. What will we do with that authority? Tell you what I am going to do with that authority. You notice we're losing money a little bit quicker now. So let's pop another tax on something. The poor people or the rich people? Or their liquor. Don't take their liquor. How much money are we making from tea now? Oh, a good amount. Okay. So let's go with just sticking to the rich people for now. We've got plenty of radicals. And honestly, 200, the 0.2 difference isn't going to make a world of difference in our financial balance sheets. The industrialist leader has retired. Are they powerful yet? Nope. There probably are more industries I need to privatize, so let's take a look at that really quick. Paper mills, yes, even though we're going to monopolize them later. Ports, I won't privatize those. I don't want the people losing money. And whaling stations, they can be privatized as well. How bad is the wood supply? Alright, still pretty bad, so no reason to deviate from our plan here. Oh, cyclone into Hoku. A tragedy, but what can be done? We really don't want to just pay money right now. I hate to be selfish, but I almost never pay the money, to be honest. It's just almost not worth it. Devastation is horrible. Don't get me wrong. But the only case that I kind of is an exception is like if I'm playing the Netherlands and I get the event from the Krakatoa eruption, then I will give money to the Netherlands to the Dutch East Indies because they're my vassal and I have to keep them happy. And we're almost finished with our construction queue, which means we'll be able to start considering other things to build. Hey, demand for food. People must be getting happy. And rich. Alright, law has progressed to adoption. We did go into 45, so I apologize that there's not this smooth synergy between episodes of them being equal length in years. But let's try to get to the end of public schools here. Or maybe we actually don't. We'll get to the end of this construction queue. I don't know why they care about damaging relations. They've only got 35 ships. At this point. Belligerent. Let me see. They want to conquer us. Well, we're going to be wrapping up this episode soon because I think it has gone on long enough. And in between episodes, I'll look at the diplomatic scene and see who wants to be our friends. Alright, line infantry has unlocked. So tell you what we're going to do. We're going to let this tick down. Let our queue finish up, and we're going to see how the construction pans out for the private sector. You can always pause it to find that out as well. But, you know, I like to do it this way. Alright. Time to conclude things. So let's see how much. September 18th. Well, no, we'll wait. I promise not to cheat and then restart the video. I always start every video with a long monologue anyways about what we're going to do. So I'd have to repeat that if I decided to cheat and with the event. Alright, so what did we accomplish this episode? Phase 2. 1840 to 1844. And a little bit more in our case. We actually started laying the foundation, both for getting trade centers up and for getting our long-term industries that will support our industrialization up. Those industries are leaning towards paper, especially, and towards developing our shipping and our fish industries, which tie in also, of course, with wood in both those industries, so that they can support both our population and they can help provide the input goods for ports and for trade centers. Next episode, we will get some trade centers up. Let's see if the private sector has built some. But I noticed, you know, I did deprioritize it early because what have we really got to trade anyways? What we do have to trade is probably stuff that will put money into the pockets of the landlords. Mostly we'll just be importing stuff, which, you know, is nice for the people, of course, and it's good to, you know, provide their needs. There are benefits to that, but it would snuff out any desire for the domestic sector to build industries to fill those needs itself. That said, then, we accomplished quite a bit on that industrial path, including getting our first whaling industries up, but we will want to continue a little bit more at the start of next episode. A few more fishings, a few more whalings. The wood looks fine, but we'll also, you know, start considering, you know, more paper and more universities, because we need to get this tech development rate, our innovation cap, and as such, ticking really fast. We'll also hopefully get to the point where we can found our next company in the next episode. Regarding laws this episode, we did pass one of the big ones, the tenant reforms. And public schools just is taking too long, so we didn't quite get through it and get on to passing the big one, getting off traditionalism. But if we kind of look at it, we'll see that it's probably got a pretty good chance of passing. It's hard to do the math sometimes here. Only 10%, but that's the 10% from, that's the checkpoints. 4% from the industrialists. That should be higher. I guess the modernization movement hasn't. They're passive at the moment. Ooh, we might have to do something about that. I thought we even had an event that was supposed to make them angrier, but I guess it was a percentage-based event. Is it going to go up at all? Nope, it's drifting down because of loyalist supporters. Because we're passing public schools and it's making them happy. Whoops, that would have been a good reason to pass religious schools. All right. I was aware of the fact that movements do get happy when you pass something that they like, but I didn't expect it to have quite a big impact. So we'll have to see how to address that situation at the beginning of the next episode, because that will be our priority. And then we can move off taxation to per capita, perhaps. Looks like we're not quite ready for it, but we will be soon. At this point, of course, again, I would welcome you to join me for the next and possibly a final episode, though we will discuss then whether I should just continue as a more Let's Play thing, because strategy starts to fall out the window as the game evolves. You have to adapt your plan quite a bit to the enemy, as the Elder Moltke was fond of saying, well, paraphrasing there, no plan survives contact with the enemy. So we might move to a more Let's Play kind of play style. But if you choose not to join me for the next episode, this is also a good point at which you can branch off and play the game how you want, because you have developed industries that, yes, support what I want to do with the paper, fish, and industries and the companies that I'm aiming for later. But you always need those industries anyways, so you have still built up a good basis of paper and food and a trade center supporting industries that you can go off now and choose to invest in iron and steel. Your call. If you learned something useful, of course, as always, I'm a terrible YouTuber and I never tell people to like and subscribe, but go ahead and try it out. It will make me feel special. Thank you again for joining me. Until next time, ciao.